Okay guys, so some of the tools you're going to need for this tutorial are going to be a pair of scissors. You are also going to need a 5mm hook. And then you don't really need this darning needle the way I designed this pattern, but it's always good to have one on hand. And here I have another skein of that Premier puzzle yarn. This one is Crosswords. And we are going to be using most of the skein. It's about 328 yards. So if you wanted to use a different kind of yarn or a yarn with similar weight, you want to just make sure you get pretty close to that yardage. And if you did something like with a mandala, then because it has a little more yardage, it should be okay. So we are just going to jump right in. Okay, now that we have all of our tools set up, we are going to start the pattern. So what I like to do is do a half double crochet foundation chain. I feel like it just makes the work look a little bit more consistent, and it also gives a little bit of stretch, whereas if you do just a chain with a stitch in it, sometimes it can be a little tighter than the rest of the work. So this is just going to kind of keep it even. And if you don't know this particular stitch, I'll just go over it real fast for you. But if you need something a little more in-depth, you can definitely just type in on YouTube or even Google half double crochet foundation chains, or you can do single crochet or double crochet, whichever you prefer. So to get started, we are going to do what's called a slip knot. So to do that, and this is just the way I do it, everybody's a little different. So I'll take my yarn and I'll make sure I have a pretty generous tail, and then I'm going to take the tail and just fold it over the rest of the yarn, so it's like this. And I like to take my two fingers in there, and I like to kind of stretch it open a little bit, and then what I like to do is turn my fingers over and grab the rest of the yarn here in between the two, and then I'll just pull the tail. So that's going to give me a slip knot, and then you'll want to just insert your hook and tighten it up a little bit. So it's really easy to do a foundation crochet chain. It does take a little bit of practice. It did take me a little bit of time, so don't be deterred if it takes you a few minutes to work on it. So to do this, we are going to chain one, and in your chain one here, we are going to work back into it. So we are going to do like we would do a normal half double crochet. We'll yarn over, we're going to insert our hook, and then we're going to drop a loop. So now you should have 3 loops on your hook. And so instead of just going through all 3 automatically, we are going to make the chain. So to do that, it's as simple as it sounds. You're just going to pull your yarn through one of the loops. And so that'll give us a chain stitch here, but it'll also leave 3 loops on our hook, so we can do our half double crochet. And then you would just pull through like you do normal. So there we go. So we have our first chain, and then we have our first half double crochet. So to continue working this, we are going to work backwards like we were. So in between that chain stitch and the half double crochet right here, if you pull them just gently, you should get a little space there. So that's where we're going to be working in. So like we just did, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that space that I just showed you. You're going to drop a loop. And so you should have 3 on your hook now. And then we are going to just pull through 1, and then you should have 3 more, and then you'll pull through all 3 of those. So we're just going to continue this, and we're going to work 18 of these in total. So I'll show you one more time, and then I'll meet you guys back here. So find your space here between the stitches, yarn over, insert your hook, drop a loop. You'll pull through 1, and then you'll pull through 3. So your chains should look like this. So just, yeah, continue till you reach 18, and then I'll meet you guys back here. Okay guys, now that you have gotten your 18 of your foundation, we are going to go ahead and start working the next row. So with this, it's super simple to work into because you have your chains here on this side, and then on the other side is the top of your half double crochet. So that's the part we'll be working in. And so we are going to chain a 3, and we'll chain 3 throughout. So each time we do a new row, it's going to be chain 3 to start that row, and the chain 3s are also going to start as our first stitch. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to chain 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to turn our work. And so now we are going to skip this first half double crochet right here where the chain's coming out of. Like I said, this counts as that first stitch. So we're just going to skip that one and go on to the next one. So we are going to work double crochets in the top of these. So you'll just yarn over, insert your hook, you'll draw up a loop, and similar to the half double, instead of pulling through all 3, we're going to pull through 2 and then pull through 2 more. And so that's going to give us this lovely double crochet, and we're just going to continue to do 1 double crochet in each stitch at the top there. So you'll just do that all the way to the end. So we're at the very end here. I wanted to leave this last stitch unworked so I can show you a little trick that I usually do, because whenever I make my foundation crochets, I always have this little tail with an extra loop on it, and I found a way to kind of hide that so you don't have to worry about it. So what I do is in this final stitch here, I will go ahead and yarn over and insert my hook like normal, and then I will take the little tail with the loop on it, and I will just kind of gently push it over the hook. So now I'll have an extra loop, and then there's the tail. So I'll just kind of pinch it down with my fingers to keep it even with the rest of them, and then I'll just draw up a loop like normal and then do my double crochet. And so what that does is it just kind of makes the tail tuck behind a little bit, and it'll hide that piece. So whenever we do the fringe, like I said, we're not going to have to worry about weaving in ends. It'll just look like part of the fringe, so you don't have to deal with it. So it's an easy, lazy way, if you will, of, you know, getting away from weaving in ends. I hate weaving in ends. If I can do it while I'm working, I definitely do it. It's like my least favorite part. So on to the next row. So like we did this last one, we're just going to chain 3, and then we're going to turn our work over again. And so we're going to work just another row of double crochet. So we'll skip this first stitch again, and we'll go into the next and just insert our hook and yarn over and do a double crochet. So you'll just keep continuing that until the very end. Okay, so now we're at the end of this row, and I left again the last stitch unworked just to show you something else. So where we did this chain 3 here in the beginning of the previous row, it counts as a stitch. So in order to make sure your stitches are even and you don't have any angling going on, we're going to double crochet into the very top of this chain 3. So you'll just yarn over and insert your hook into the very top there. And sometimes these stitches can be a little tight. You might have to wiggle your hook in there a little bit. But yeah, you just double crochet in the top of that right there. And so now we have a nice even piece of work. And I like doing that just because sometimes when you do like a chain 3 and then you work in the same stitch, you'll get kind of like a weird angle going on in your work. And especially if you're doing like a hat and a round, I've noticed that it's really prominent in that. And so a lot of times I will just do a chain. I won't actually work a stitch into that stitch, and I'll skip to the next one. And that's just my preference. Everybody is allowed to make their own way. That's just the way I like to do it because I like. So now that we have our second row of double crochet, now we're going to start working the front post double crochet stitches. So this is going to make a waffle stitch is what it's normally called. It's just kind of like a outlined square. It looks really visually, it's really pretty. And so it's super easy to do as well. So the front post double crochet, I'll just show you really quick. But again, if you need a little bit extra practice, because it's a brand new stitch to you, you can type in Google or YouTube front post double crochet, and you should be able to find a tutorial fairly easy. That way you can practice a little bit more. So to start the stitch, again, our row, we're going to start it off with a chain 3, turn our work. And so again, we are going to skip this first double crochet like I just said, and then we're going to work around the second one. So, and when I say work around, you literally are working around the stitch. So you'll yarn over, and then you are actually going to insert your hook in between the 2 stitches, and then you're going to go right behind that second stitch. So your hook should look like this on the back side. It should look like this on the front side. And then you are going to draw up a loop. So then you're going to have 3 loops on your hook again. And then you're just going to do a regular double crochet that way. And so you get this nice kind of prominent stitch on the top rather than straight flush with the rest of them. And that's pretty much it. It's super easy, guys. And then I'll do a couple more just to show you guys a little bit better. So in the next stitch, we are going to work in the top of this one. So it's just going to be a regular double crochet in the top. So there. So here's our front post right here, and then there's our regular double crochet. And by doing that, we're going to allow the front post to stick out even more. So it'll give it more of the shape we want. So again, the next stitch, we are going to work around with the front post double crochet. So you'll just yarn over, insert your hook behind, and then you will just make sure it's sticking out like that in the back. You'll yarn over and drop a loop. And then double crochet. So yep, so there is your second stitch there. And then again, in the top of the next one, we're just going to work a regular double. So that way you can see, again, we've got a double crochet here, front post, double crochet, front post. You should definitely be able to tell a difference. The back side looks like this, so it's also sticking out, although you have kind of a line here. So I'll do it one more time just to show you guys, and then we'll continue on. So front double post, you're going to work behind, you're going to draw up a loop and double crochet, and then in the next one you're going to work in the top the regular double crochet. Okay, and so we're going to do that all the way to the end. And you're probably going to end up with a front post double crochet as the last. And so whenever I get to that last stitch again, I'll just show you. Okay, so I have worked my final double crochet, and so what we have left here is that chain 3 chain again. So it's really easy to complete this row. Instead of, you know, inserting and double crocheting in the top there, we are actually going to just continue and work around this last stitch and do a front post double crochet. So you don't have a stitch necessarily to work in between, on this side at least. So you're going to just yarn over, insert your hook, and then you're going to just pull up a loop and then do your double crochet around that stitch. So there we go. It's not as prominent as the other ones, but whenever we start working up into the rows even more, it'll just kind of blend in and it'll look like the rest of the piece, and that's what we want. This next row, we're going to be working in opposition. So instead of putting a front post around a front post, we're going to be putting a front post around a double crochet and then a double crochet in the top of a front post. And that is what's going to give us that squared effect that we're looking for. So to start this row, we're just going to chain 3, turn our work. So again, skip that first stitch here, and then this next stitch is just a double crochet. So we're going to do a front post around it. So you'll just insert your hook and go underneath it, and then double crochet. And then the next one's going to be the front post, so we'll just double crochet in the top of it. And then again a front post, and then a double crochet. So we're just going to continue that to the rest of the round. And again, we're going to end with a front post double crochet around that chain 3, and I'll show you guys that again, just as you know, the more you see it, the more you do it, the easier it is to remember. So yeah, we'll just go to the end of that and then I'll meet you back here. So again, we've made it to the end of our row, and so we are going to just front post double crochet around this chain 3 again. Okay, and so there is our first square. You can definitely see the little edges there on it. Super cute the way it works up. So we're gonna keep working this, and we should end on row 11. So you'll just want to repeat this row. You should have 5 total squares going upwards. So if you're looking at it this way, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on upwards. And then I'll meet you back here. Okay guys, so we have made it to our 5th waffle, and so it's not going to be a complete square until we do this next row. So I should have clarified that before, but anyway, and so here we go. We'll go ahead and count our squares now. So we have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and then this is the start of the 5th one right here, and when we put the top on, it'll definitely square off. So for this one, we are going to chain 3, as you see I already did here, and we are going to just double crochet again in each stitch across, except for that first one. We're going to skip it, and then in the very end we are going to be working a double crochet in the top of that chain 3 again. And so we'll do that together one more time too. Alright guys, so we've got our first row of double crochet, and as you can see it's kind of topped the square a little bit here. So now we're at the very end. I left that last stitch unworked again. We're just going to double crochet in the top of that chain 3 again. And there you are, that finished off that row. So now we're going to do a couple more rows of double crochet. So we should end at row 16. So yeah, just continue on doing double crochets until you hit row 16. After that, I'll meet you back here. Alright guys, so we finished that row, and we are now ready to go on to the next stitch, which is going to be referred to as the Alpine Stitch. So again, going with the theme of double crochets and front post double crochet, we are going to work the stitch. And so it's a series of front double crochets with double crochets, and then whenever we do the opposition row, the next row, it's going to be back post double crochet with double crochet. So it's really interesting stitch how it turns out. And so I'll go through it a couple times with you guys just to get some practice in for you. So we're going to chain 3 like we have. You're going to turn your work over, and then we are just going to do the front post double crochet, and then we're going to do a double crochet, and then a front post double crochet. So just like before in the waffle stitch, we're just going to keep doing that until we get to the end. Okay, and so after we've done our front post double crochet around that chain 3, we're going to chain 3 and flip our work to start the new row. So before, like I had explained, we were working front post double crochets in the opposite. This time we're going to be working the back post double crochets in the double crochet rather than the front post and then front post. So to do that, it's super easy, just like the front post. Again, we're going to be working in between stitches. So instead of going through the top and back underneath like this, we are going to actually yarn over and go up through the back of the work. We're going to do that instead. And then you'll go over the front. So your hook will look like that on the front side, and then the stitch will actually be over the top of the hook there on the back side. So you'll just yarn over and draw up a loop again, and then you'll double crochet. So that's going to give us our stitch here, and then see right here, that's the first one from the last row, and then this will be the back post one. So they're going to be kind of going in a zigzag motion there. So in the top of the next one, we are just going to double crochet, and then again for the back post, we are going to yarn over and come through the back side of our work, and then just, yeah, that's sure to be the back side there, and then just yarn over, draw up some loops, and double crochet again. And we'll just continue that same pattern to the end. So guys, we are here to the very last stitch, and so again we are going to do the back post double crochet through this final chain 3. So again, you'll just yarn over, and you'll want to put it on the back side of the loop there, and I'm going to drop a loop in, do your double crochet, so that way it's flush with the rest of the work. So we're going to go on to the next row. You'll chain 3, and then you'll flip your work again. So now, like I was talking about, we're going to be going in opposition. So whereas we were putting the back post double crochet, we'll be putting double crochet, and where the double crochet are, we're actually going to be going back to the front post double crochet. So in this first one, we've already made our first double crochet, so we're going to front post into the following stitch, and so you'll just go on the front side again, and then the next one will be a double crochet, and then a front post. So we're going to continue working this until the end of the row. And then once you reach the end of the row, this part is going to be a majority of the pattern. So we're going to keep continually working until we reach the 44 rows. So 44 rows, when you get there, that's where you need to stop, and then we'll go on to the next part. Alright guys, so now we have worked up all of our Alpine Stitch here, and so we're going to go ahead and continue on to the next phase, which is going to be 5 more rows of double crochet. So again, you will just chain your 3 to start the row, and you'll turn your work over, and then in the top of each double crochet, in the top of each double crochet, you're going to double crochet. And again, we'll skip that first one and go into the second one. So yeah, we're going to repeat this for 5 rows now. Alright guys, so we've got to our 5 rows of double crochet, and so it's pretty much downhill from here. We're kind of just going to repeat these same clusters of different textures, and so it should be really easy now. On this next set, we are going to be doing the waffle stitch again, and so we just want to make sure that we end up with those 5 squares, the 5th one being slightly uncompleted until we put in the next row. So yeah, just a little refresher on that. You're just going to chain your 3 and turn your work, and then you'll do a front post double crochet, and then a double crochet, front post, and double crochet, and then you're just going to continue to repeat that. You're not going to be doing the back post double crochet on the second round. It's just going to be front post and double crochets for the next few rows. Right, now that we have done our rows of the waffle stitch, we are going to do 5 more rows of the double crochet. So again, you just chain 3, skip that first double crochet, and double crochet all the way across, and then you'll double crochet in the top of that chain 3 stitch. So yeah, do 5 rows of those. All right, now that we have finished that 5 rows of double crochet, we are going to start the Alpine stitch again. And so we're going to do another 29 rows of that. So yeah, and just remember that when you do the Alpine stitch, you'll do the front post double crochet, and then the next row will be in opposition of the front post double crochet will actually be a double crochet, and then the double crochets are going to turn into back post double crochets. So yeah, don't forget that. And yep, so do 29 rows and I'll meet you back. All right, now that we've completed our last section of this Alpine stitch, we are going to just continue repeating the same rows. So we're going to chain 3 and do 5 double crochet rows. Okay, now that we have did our final 5 double crochet rows, we are going to do the final waffle stitch rows. So again, you want to do 5 of those with the 5th one slightly incomplete. So yeah, meet you guys back here, and we are almost done. We're almost there. All right, guys, so we're at the home stretch. So we're going to do 2 rows of double crochet, and then we are going to do a row of half double crochet. So yeah, 2 rows double crochet and then 1 row half double crochet after that. All right, guys, so we have completed the actual scarf portion. So I'm going to show you how to put a border around here. I prefer to put a border, and it's just because with the Alpine stitch, sometimes you get a little bit of rolling on the edges, and this will just kind of help flatten it out. You don't have to. This is totally optional. If you don't want to bother with a border, you definitely don't have to. It's not going to affect the piece. And you can skip on through the video past to see how to attach fringe, unless you already know how to do that. But the fringe we're just going to attach to the edge here. So yeah, like I say, you can fasten off and stop here if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and continue with a border. And so to do that, we're going to just do a single crochet border, and I like to work down the side of the piece first rather than starting in the corner and then going down the long side of it. So I'll just chain 1, and then I'm going to turn my work, and then in that same stitch that we just chained 1, we're going to go ahead and do 2 more single crochets in there, and that gives us our corner. So we're going to work across the top here all the way down to the next corner, and then we're going to put in 3 single crochets into that. And so guys, here we are to the corner, and so it's that chain 3 again. So we're going to work in the top of it. We're just going to go ahead and put our 3 single crochets in the top there. Okay, now that we have that corner ready to go, we are going to work down the long side now. And some people don't worry about the actual chains on the sides. They just kind of work in the open spaces, which is totally fine. You can do that. I prefer to work in the chains, and that is just to me, it feels like it's making that a little bit smoother, because sometimes with these chains you can get like a bumpy edge. And sometimes if your tension was a little tighter or a little looser when you made the chain, that'll definitely show through if you're working in the hole here. So what I do is I literally just find the middle chain of that row, and then I insert my hook and just single crochet into that. So like right here, got the middle right here. I'm just going to, it's a little tight, so yeah, with these chains it is a little tight sometimes. I'm just going to put my hook through and then single crochet, and then that way we are working in the center of each row. Just my personal preference, you don't have to do that. Like I said, you can just work in the actual hole here along if you like. But yeah, we're just going to single crochet like this through each row, all the way to the very end edge here, and then we'll do another corner, and then you'll work across the top, make a corner, and then you'll work across the other long side. Alright guys, so I have got all the way around for my border, and so I'm just going to put in this final single crochet, and then here at this corner where we have our two single crochets and then that chain one that we did, we're going to slip stitch into that chain one. And that's just going to join the ends there. And so now we have a beautiful clean border. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and fasten off. So I'll just chain one, pull tight, and then I'm going to give myself kind of a medium tail, about that long or so. Now we're going to do the fringe part, which is super fun and easy. So what I like to do is I like to take like some type of book or board, whichever width you would prefer. I'm going to use this crochet book that I have, and I'm just going to wrap my yarn around. So you'll just literally wrap it around your book here, and we're going to do that several times. As far as the exact number of times, I honestly didn't count. You need enough to go through each hole on the edges. So basically this times 2. We're looking at roughly 36. So yeah, if you just need to make sure you do it 36 times to get enough. And if you end up needing an extra, or you want to put extra fringe in here, you can just keep wrapping accordingly. But yeah, I'm going to do it at least 36 times. So we've already got 3 wraps here. So I wrapped it 36 times, and now I'm just going to cut here at the edge where I left off. And this way we get a nice even fringe, and we don't have to worry about trimming as much. If you want to trim up, you definitely can, but I do it this way, that way I don't have to worry about trimming so much and fraying the yarn too bad. Even though this yarn doesn't seem to be too bad as far as fraying anyway, so that's always good. So to insert the fringe, we're just going to take our crochet hook, and we are going to pop it through this middle single crochet in our corner. And then you're going to take a strand of the yarn that you just cut. Just want to kind of make the ends level with each other, and then you're going to have a loop at the top. You're just going to put that over your hook, and you're going to pull with your hook. You're just going to pull that loop through that middle stitch. And then we want to take our hook and make our loop a little bit looser. And then kind of like we did with the slip knot, I always put my fingers in between, and I just grab the tails and pull them, and just kind of pull them through. And so that's going to give us a nice little knot there. So yeah, pretty similar to the slip knot. And then we're just going to keep going across in each one, and I'll do that one more time. So I'm going to even up my tails, get my loop ready. My hook's inserted into the stitch. I'm going to pull that loop through, and then I'm going to put my fingers through the loop and just pull the tails. And there you go. So yeah, just keep doing that to this side, and then we'll do the other side, and then we'll be finished. Okay guys, so we're here at the very end of this first side, and so I wanted to show you where we had this initial tail. It's just going to blend in with the fringe. So what I do is I just take another piece of yarn and run it through that same loop, and it camouflages it pretty well. If it's a little longer than your fringe and you want to make sure it's even, you just trim it up a little bit. But yeah, and that's how I hide my ends, and you don't have to worry about dealing with them too much and trying to figure out how to get them weaved in there. So yay, and this is looking super cute. So I'm going to do the other side, and then we'll be finished. All right guys, so here's our finished product. It turned out absolutely beautiful. I love this colorway that I used. I hope you guys' projects come out just as well, and I would definitely like to see what you guys came up with, especially if you use different gauges of needle and different yarns. That would be a lot of fun. So yeah, awesome. I hope you liked this tutorial and it was helpful to you, and this added a new pattern for your crochet Bibles.